Good day, everybody. Welcome to another video from the series of work, study and analysis. I'm your host, Zico. Today's subject is a very dear subject to my own heart, one of the greatest influence on me as an artist. I know everybody's familiar with my work in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but this time I thought of bringing something different. Today we're talking about Berserk. Berserk is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Kentaro Miura, set in medieval Europe, inspired by dark fantasy and many different references in art. The story centers about the character Guts, and he's like a lone swordsman, and Griffith, the leader of mercenary band called Band of the Hawk. Berserk series premiered as a prototype in 1988 by Kentaro Miura, and the following year the series continued to this day until the passing of Kentaro Miura in May 2011. The recent days there have been new chapters being developed by Kentaro Miura's team, and they are published like God knows when, but the recent one that resumed was in June 2022 under the supervision of Kentaro Miura, fellow manga artist and childhood friend Koji Mori, and group of Kentaro Miura's assistant group and apprentice from his studio Giga. Berserk was adapted into 25-episode anime television by OWN Studio, which covered the Golden Age story arc in October 1995 and until March 1998. And then let's forget about what happened later with the Netflix adaptation. What's cool about Berserk, it takes a whole idea of manga art and turn it into what I would call a masterpiece of work and beautiful work of details that you would never see in any other art style. The themes of Berserk usually are medieval, dark fantasy, but that's not like the core point because there are different series and mangas. The thing about Berserk is that there are details in the work and beautiful references used. And without Berserk, we wouldn't have series such as Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and the list goes on, because Berserk was very influential work, very influential, and it would not be very famous with its story and most likely with its art without Kentaro Miura. Kentaro Miura, born in July 1966. He was a Japanese manga artist known for his dark fantasy series Berserk, which began serialization in 1989 and continued until his death in May 2021. And the beautiful thing about this artist is just how much he handles his influences, because Kentaro Miura is very heavily influenced by medieval artists and some modern day films such as Hellraiser, which is one of my all-time as well favorite artists. But he's also inspired by Dutch artists such as Anonymous Bosch and Peter Bruegel, and the French artist who's behind the Divine Comedy illustration, Gustave Dore. And his Japanese also influence is Fist of the North Star. I took my own time as an artist to study Kentaro Miura's artwork, and I've been very heavily fascinated by his art style. And I thought it would be the beautiful thing to talk about his video, because there are plenty of videos on YouTube that does not take the study and breakdown of Berserk art, but I wanted to take an attempt and give it a try, because I've been so invested in the art style and try to get as much influence as I could as an artist from it. Because I noticed one of the beautiful thing about Kentaro Miura's art is that there are a lot of details, and there's a lot of cross-hatching, and which is, if you take a look at the list of artists that influences him, most likely Gustave Dore, you would see that Kentaro Miura adopted the similar style, except that Gustave Dore uses like old school printing, which is completely different. But Kentaro Miura uses like inking, like traditional inking in his art style without any relying on references, as we take a notice that he takes sometimes a long hiatus to come out with a chapter. But when he drops certain types of chapters that takes a long time to produce, you see a lot of time, like the time he spent on hiatus was heavily invested in creating beautiful panels. It's like the man doing, he loves his work, you know, and he wants to invest and give his hearts out to give you guys the best story and the best art style. I will bring in different examples in this video on what I noticed, you know, what did I study, because it will not be just a simple video. It will be hopefully a video where we will take everything step by step, and hopefully your time will be worth it. This is my work that is inspired by Miura. That is not a JoJo work, and I hope you can see like the influence of Kentaro Miura's art, because I love Berserk as a fan. I love, my favorite character is Zod Immortal. I think it's just because of the purpose he seeks of being finally defeated or finding the worthy opponent, you know. And that's, it's not just that, because I mean there's a lot of things that has to do with Berserk as a theme, you know, like the theme of the story, from the destiny, law of causality, you know, and friendship, betrayal, you know, and it makes you sometimes question your own existence and what's your own potential. For me, I've came across this question as an artist, and I ask myself, what do I want in this life as a person? And I think I have already the answer in my head. I just don't want to be the best artist. You know, I want to be a phenomenon that comes to this life, you know, where I have fun drawing and I have a lot of fun doing my own thing, as Kentaro Miura did, because this man is a big inspiration to me. So now, we're gonna take, in the first chapter now of this video, a list of references and influences that Kentaro Miura uses in Berserk, and how much he incorporates in it. So, grab your earphones, sit down, take a notes, and let's start it. I took some time while making this video, and it took me about a week to like do some research on list of references that are used in Berserk. And I've listed down every piece of work I've came across, and I've come across websites like Reddit. I just did my own search on Google to find every tiny bit of detail that could have inspired Kentaro Miura's art. I don't know if it could be, if I'm correct or not, but the answer lies in Kentaro Miura's hand, because these references and works are completely, you know, I don't know if they are connected, but I took a notice of the date time when it came out. For example, like Hellraiser came like before Berserk, and the influence of Hellraiser, it helped creating the God Hand. And it's just the references not only by design but also in quote, because God Hand are referenced as angels to some, demons to others, as the same as the Cenobites, which are demons to some, angels to others, and it depends on your perspective. And it's a beautiful mix of eroticism and horror at the same time. It feels like as something came out of the mind of H.R. Giger and Clive Barker's written imagination. Both came as the brainchild known as the God Hand, and the ideal of evil itself. Because when you take a notice at the idea of evil in Berserk mythology itself, it's quite a parallel to the Leviathan from Hellraiser series, which is very, very much interesting actually point. Another thing I took a notice is the work of Anonymous Bosch. You know, the work of Anonymous Bosch is very much as well influencing on Kentaro Miura's art, And it's also referenced in the chapter where the God Hand as well summoned or manifested, where you see, I think, Conrad manifest himself into a being, and that being is based on a reference of painting by anonymous Bosch. If I'm not wrong, it could be a depiction of hell. And another thing as well interesting, and it's not only based on different, you know, artists as well. There's some mythology as well involved, because in a previous video I've done, one of my oldest videos, I've talked about the possible theory of Slan from the God Hand as well, which is a mix of, you know, a pair of the mythological beings such as Lamia from Greco-Libyan mythology and Medusa, and it's more like similar to like Lamia would be like the daughter of Poseidon, you know, and the whole idea of like, I cannot use the bad words because I don't want to get demonetized on YouTube, but you get what I mean. As well, when you look at the different design as well, when you pay close attention to the character, how it's summoned, it's a mix of like a harpy with a Medusa, with the kind of thing, but you can get the influence on it. And I want to move now to Void. Void, very much one of the coolest designs you would see on a villain, with like the skinned body, exposed brain. And I don't know if everybody have seen that before, but if you have seen the movie Attack on Mars, that's as well a reference used by Kentaro Miura in creating his own character. And that's actually very much a cool thing. And as you see, there are a lot of different influences on Kentaro Miura's artwork and different things, because every time I discover something new, because Berserk is not only an influence itself, it's also influenced by different things, and the whole idea came out as a beautiful creation, I would call it, a masterpiece of work. It's a tragedy and an adventure and action at the same time. And that's one of the things I love about Berserk, because you can sit down, get your own manga book, and personally I have the deluxe edition, and you cannot get tired of studying the work. You cannot get tired, because there's deep details in the work that never disappoints, you know. It's beautiful, you know, the build-up of the crosshatch itself, and the shaping, his understanding of form, and from sharp object, you know, not sharp, I think it's solid object, to round soft object is amazing. And the coolest thing I love about his work is just as well is how he draws the armor, because in the video I'm going to show you in the next chapter with what I did, what kind of studies I've done, I went through like the build-up of the armor based on the cross-hatching that I see in the panel, you know. And I hope there would be a spoiler ahead, because the chapter is a way ahead. If you have not read Berserk, I would highly recommend it, because it's a beautiful story and a beautiful influence for anybody who wants to be very much a classic medieval kind of style good artist, you know, like love the old school, like the medieval art, like the Incan style. I would highly recommend Berserk for it. But what you see with the study I've done is how much he understands like the direction of the lines, and how much he incorporate them, get them close and get them like far apart to demonstrate a beautiful shading, because cross-hatching most of the time used as a beautiful, I would say, beautiful technique to enhance the shadowing or enhancing the shape, to give more of the like the message to the eye that this shape is a round, or if it's reflective, and it's a very much a simple form, you know. So I think that's what I would say in this chapter, you know, after the list of references I brought to you. I hope you find it useful. So now we're gonna move to the next chapter, where I would show you guys the details I was talking about in the video. Okay, so now grab your pencils, your tablet, and let's try to take a different example, because I'm going to use 2 different videos. Probably I'm gonna add more, you know, it depends on what I'm thinking ahead, because I'm doing this recordingly to speak my hearts out on how I feel about Berserk, and how much I love the series, and how much I study it. Because I'm not a good writer. I speak from my heart, and I don't use any script, and I honestly feel good about it, you know. So now grab your pencils, let's not talk too much. So now I grabbed a panel where it's a drawn picture of Guts from Berserk with his Berserker armor, and this is, if I'm not wrong, I hope it's clear, you know. So now I'm gonna try to zoom in where everybody could see the details I'm talking about, where it's a combination of shadowing and cross-hatching at the same time, where it makes a form right here. So I'm going to now adjust the point, the pencil, the tablet. And if you wonder what kind of tablet I use Wacom tablet, like a very small one. So I'm going now to try and adjust my pencils and adjust everything and try to get things straight up. I'm going to try to use fine line here, and like a very small line, and I think he uses like between the measurement of 0.1 0.0, I would say 3, to try to make the shapes here. As you see here in the whole round head of Guts, the way he tried to form the shape, where he starts like from the furthest point where there's the hair parts all the way to the area where the light, it's very much exposed. That's where like it ends. So it goes from a bit thicker lines to the tiniest line. So it gives a beautiful indication of that there's light coming up from the opposite direction, and it's a bit darker there. And that's as well, I think, enhanced by the shadowing itself. So now I'm gonna try to trace the other lines, trying to trace as well the eyebrows and trying to trace the eyes, you know. So, and as well, I'm going to try to break the shapes too. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So now I'm going to try to show you where everything comes from, you know. I'm going to mark as well the shapes. I'm gonna try to break down the shape, what makes like the face of Guts in its original form, like its solid form, where it's very much visible to anybody to see here. I'm trying to think as well what the skull would look like as well. So now, it's a bit hard for me to focus because I'm not very much, I don't have the ability to focus on one task. I honestly don't know why, but I'm gonna try now to change the color as well, for it to black, and trying to make the difference where everybody could see like what are the lines here. You see how much it matches and why it is the way it is as well. You see now what the chin is made of, and you would see now this is like a small cross hatching I'm going to do on the sides, and I'm gonna try to understand how he works and operate, because I see there's like dark, light, and there's like a little medium and then darker as well. And I'm gonna try to lower as well the opacity right here. Now we're gonna try to establish the whole head, how it's like formed. I think that's how, if I'm wrong, how he draws the head, like the hair, sorry, on the head. Where's the mark and where's the point? So I usually do a little like practice sometimes, from time to time, to try to study the art and try to give a better understanding for it as well. And this is the first example. I hope it's very much clear for anybody to see, you know. This is like on a closer scale, like when it comes to the faces. Now I'm going to move to the best part for me is how he draws the armor. So this is like a small scale from the chapter where the Beast of Darkness, or Guts in Berserker armor, Beast of Darkness infusion, and you will see what I'm talking about, where I used like the points I was telling you about, dark light and dark light, you know, cross hatching. The thing is, the direction of the cross hatching, what determines it is where the character, if I'm not wrong, where it points from, where's the direction, you know, the line coming from. Like in the previous example, the central point where the nose comes from is determine the shadows. And here, in order to give like the impression that this armor as seen is curved, you would have to take a notice that to be curved where the lights come from. If the light comes from the top, that means underneath it, it's gonna be like a shadowy figure, you know, like as you see here, you know, you see that there's like a little shadow figure, and it goes from dark, a little bit medium, and then lighter. And you will see what I'm talking about with this beautiful example right here. Hold on. I'm gonna try now to give a very much like a three-dimensional thing to the whole armor, so everybody would be able to see it. And try to zoom forward and zoom backward, and I'm going to add a different armor as well to it. And here, this is for me the first example now. Before I move on to the second armor, where everybody will be able hopefully to see what I meant by where like the direction of the cross hatching from like which area to which area and where you put it, it depends on where, if I'm not wrong, where your character points toward, because you want to give the impression that this shape is round or this shape is like a cylinder. Because I think if it's, I don't know if I'm correct, but it could be like a mix of contour, you know, line and cross contour. I think the cross contour lines are the cross hatching, and that will show you where like the shape toward, like which point it towards, where like the darkness and lightness determined. And I'm gonna, like, if you don't get it, like if you don't get it correctly, I'm gonna try to get as well the below the armor area, so you get like what I mean, hopefully. So now you see the example I'm telling you about now. I'm going to draw like the cylinder, like if I'm not wrong, the cylinder like round area, like the other part where in the armor, because that the upper part is for the shoulder and the lower part as well is for the arm. So you see here the directions of the cross hatching lines are completely here different than the one on the top, because here it's a cylinder shape, you know. So you see here there's a beautiful, good understanding of shapes, you know, and the line in the middle determines the shadow as well. So it's a mix of both, between this and between that. And you don't want to over cross hatch your shape very much, because it will get too much overwhelmed, I would say. And this is so far the first two videos here, where everything hopefully is explained. And now I'm going to move on to the next chapter with Kentaro Miura's illustration, and we will see together how much he incorporates colors in his work, and how many pieces he incorporates beautifully, like how much I think he believed. Because I think with colors would be a whole different case in comparison to using ink and paper. Okay, so now let's have a nice chill down time, and let's move on to the next chapter, shall we? always an interesting question. I thought as well something else before we move on to his illustration. I thought it would be fair, or would not be fair, to make a Berserk analysis video or Kentaro Miura's art style analysis video if I don't explain in details how Kentaro could have achieved, or could possibly what made him achieve a perfect panel that could stand out. What would be the perfect combination? So while recording this video, I thought it would be fun to bring that up, because at first I was not very confident with how could I do it, or how could I explain it clear. But after I took a little break while recording this video, I came up with would be a perfect explanation, I hope so, for how Kentaro could achieve his work, or what makes a panel that he created stands out. So I picked up some of my favorite panels from the Berserk manga that are very, very highly detailed and very well, I would say, perfectly well all-rounded form, you know, perfect panel, I would call it. If you ever look, pay attention to the visually pleasing panel here. You see what I've talked about in the previous examples with the effect of light, dark, and gray. How can Kentaro Miura use that in achieving his own, I would say, perfect panel? For example, if you look at the beast on the right side next to, I would not spoil any name, but if you look at the first example here, you can see the first thing you notice, it's a beast stands out, you know. But what makes this beast stands out? The first thing you should notice that what is surrounding here. Here it starts with the dark in this area, and there's white on the opposite hand here, and on the other direction there's as well light. So it's here you see the combo I was telling you about, of light, dark in shape, in forming the forms, and the teeth and the wrinkles stands out because also there's a light in there. There's a white as well here, and gray and dark. But here's the thing, there's another little factor that I've as well mentioned in the previous examples, in the previous study I've done. You see the little cross hatching here lines, how much they're making a form, you know, how it makes it very much distinguishable. In this example here, you see the lines forming here, and in the second example here with the serpent, the spiked serpent, and you see again dark, light, dark, dark, light, gray here. But what is parallel to it here, how he separates it, you can see like a little dark line here, that's like a little separation, so like it does not harm the eye or distract the eye. It makes everything very comfortable to the eye here to see. And the same thing with the cross hatching here. Let's look very much deeply how this face or this thing stands out, you know, as well too. So it's the same cross hatching form, but the directions here are completely different, because the direction here points out to this way. Meanwhile, here it points to this way, and this one as well points the opposite direction. So in order for it to establish a form, and when you look below up, whereas like the teeth as well, it's very much easy to notice. I think here it's the line a little bit thick because the page is not very much big, but you can see what I've talked about here. So there's like a little factor of dark, light, dark, and the same thing goes here. It's here, you see the background is completely dark here, and there's a little crosshatch to indicate the cloud, and here the diamond on the dragon's head is made as well of mostly light. But what makes the dragon stands out, I will not spoil any name. Don't hate me, I'm not just don't want to. I want everybody hopefully to read Berserk because it's a really good series, so I'm not gonna spoil anything, you know. So, and look deeply here, you see The cross hatching is what I was talking about. So this to indicate where's the direction of the neck is heading towards. Yeah, it's a bit hard to see for me where the mouse points up, but you see here it's the direction. Sorry, my bad. The direction of the neck. You're like where it's like it forms like a scale. You know, there's like a little like outline here. If I'm not wrong with the phrase, like excuse, I'm sorry for it. But you see, there's here darkness, gray, light, dark, gray. You know, light. It's like in this format, and how he composed this image is very amazing, because I think he uses very much kind of like a Frazetta type of style of, like Frank Frazetta type of style of light, using light and dark, light, and a little bit of abstract shapes. I will give you another interesting example of how Kentaro Miura uses the element of dark and light with extra details. Here there's a panel of, I would not, okay, Conrad, like this time, like I'm gonna say, from the God Hand, and how he uses again the same element I was telling you about of dark and light. You see, where's the? I'm trying to find the mouse where it points towards. Here. Okay. So you see, I hope the mouse is very clear for everybody to see, and like my computer is a bit laggy. This area, it's made of dots, dark light, but it's mostly centered around light. Here we have the shape that makes the form, which is a round shape, you know. And it's supposed, like, if you look at the direction where the character points towards, it's in this form. So you see the shapes. It's kind of more highly detailed. I would say a very much advanced mix of cross-hatching and using the form, you know. That's the thing. I hope it's like clear for everybody to see. I'm going trying to zoom in so you see more extra details here. You see there's a very tiny cross-hatching here to try to indicate the point he's trying to indicate in this example, that this creature or Conrad is made of mice that eat humans. What's very cool here is the element again I'm telling you about. You see the skull is made, it's all white, meanwhile the skin is made of gray and black cross hatching. But here, if you look down, is completely the opposite, because here is the opposite of here. Here this is light, here this is dark. So the outlines here are quite reversed slowly. You know, there's a little direction. You see here it moves in lightly, and it's slowly the lines switch to darkness right here, straight up towards. And for him to make the character a bit distinguishable, like with the same thing, even here on the top, if you notice, is the same thing going over, you know. But it's quite a little bit the opposite colors. It's more towards the light, you know. And he uses the same cross-hatching here to try to make the format or the form of the eyebrows. So there's a very good understanding of cross-hatching, shading, shape and forms, and the use of light and darkness. Because you see here, he made his own character more pops out through not only using the shape and cross-hatching, also using the light without relying on the colors. So you see here there's a mix of light again and darkness. And now I'm going to bring another last example of one of my personal favorite panel. Here it's more, I would say, dimensional in this case. How he could have used it, I would say. Here again you see the same element, light, gray, white, and dark. You know, where is darkness, there's light, and where's there's light, there's darkness. Is as in this format, and he just round his characters with like outlines to try to not distract the viewer's eye. So he builds a good dimension and good shade and format without relying too much on a lot of perspective, you know. because you see most of there's more like the way he shapes the 3D format through these elements I was telling you about. So I hope it's very much clear to see, and the way he uses the same thing as well to even create reflection on the armor as well. So, and personally that's what I believe, and I think it's the same thing he uses on making you know, latex, or I think another form, not non-metallic reflective outfits, or the way he makes the hair on Zod, as you see. So he very much relies on lines, cross-hatching line. It's very much similar to the old school work of Gustave Dore. I think that's what all I can say, you know. So that's how I would say in this part of the study, that's how much far I've understood in Kentaro's work, you know. So now I'm going to move on to the next chapter, I think, where I would show you different illustration and say my final words on the whole video, and I hope everybody would see it. So one last words before I finish this video. Kentaro Miura's art in general is very, I would say, beautiful work of art that is a blessing to this humanity to come up. And regarding how much you think of Berserk or controversial opinion, it still does not change the fact that the work of Berserk is a masterpiece of its time, in technicality, in use of lines, everything. I would say it's completely the perfect Japanese manga, or the perfect graphic story that any artist would benefit from. Every person who loves reading would enjoy. There's a lot of philosophy, not only in the story but also in the art, because I believe the art is a parallel of the story. The idea of darkness, lightness, and what's between is very much similar to, I would say, how Berserk going. It starts with friendship, love, care, and it takes a dark direction, and sometimes it goes back to gray, and then it's like a cycle that never ends. Kentaro Miura, in my own words, is a legendary artist. He captivated a lot of people and influenced a lot of artists. Rest in peace. Thank you very much, Kentaro Miura, for influencing me as an artist, and for creating Berserk and other different works. Just having the privilege to look into your work, studying it, and the fact being influenced by it is a great privilege to me. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I hope this video was very helpful for everybody. And if leave a comment, give it a like, so hopefully it reaches everybody. I want to say thank you all for your time, and I love you. Have a beautiful day, and be safe. Goodbye.